Welcome back to Constant Sports. This is the Friday 5 where we break down the 5 most important sports business stories that we saw this week. And let's get into it. Story number 1, we have the Hurricanes owner Tom Dundon has agreed to sell 12.5% of the franchise's $2.66 billion in valuation. So here's another example of something we've talked about a ton recently on the show, is these minority stakes is the new price, where discovery kind of is a mechanism in the sports space. And so you don't need a full sale anymore to understand the franchise worth. These partial transactions are going to do a few things. They're going to give liquidity to the owners. They're going to bring in more institutional investors into sports, and then quietly reset these valuations. Like I said, so we're not seeing these big sales, but these smaller sales to equal. We can kind of figure out the valuations of these teams. And the Hurricanes' valuations puts the NHL firmly into the multi-billion-dollar franchise tier. So yeah, like we said, the bigger takeaway is sports ownership is becoming more of a portfolio asset, not just a trophy asset. Story number 2, we have Togethxr and OffBall partnership. So we have this new partnership. It includes an equity investment from Togethxr into OffBall, and this continues a pattern we're seeing across sports medias, the strategic partnerships instead of these pure content deals. And Togethxr has positioned itself at the center of the women's sports media movement. That big ecosystem. It's been taking on equity stakes and partners. They're building a distributed media ecosystem around women's sports storytelling. And the playbook here is a lot about kind of what we saw in early digital sports media with Barstool, Overtime, and others. It's put that focus on women's sports audiences, which is one of the fastest growing segments in the sports space as we know it. Story number 3, Reggie Bush, Terrence Murphy, and their athlete private equity firm recently came out that their firm, has $150 million. They're trying to go into these middle market, lower tier teams, and so it's going to be focusing on those emerging leagues, which is here another step in the broader trend. Athletes and PE kind of moving from endorsers to the investors. The strategy here is going to be interesting. Something to take note of. It's instead of chasing these big league franchises, the firm will target early stage leagues and sports properties. So a few things to note why we think this is important. By these emerging leagues, where the biggest growth multiples exit if they succeed with these emerging leagues. And so, pop niche international leagues, alternate competition formats, maybe pickleball, some women's sports leagues as well. So, going to be interesting to see where they end up in their leagues. And then the AI prediction markets and sports betting media. Underdog has gone through layoffs as the company shifts from resources towards AI and prediction markets, and this kind of reflects a major structural shift in the sports betting space, just I guess the job space in general. It'd be interesting to see these next generation of betting platforms isn't just about these sports books, but these data marketplaces and predictive engines. And the AI obviously allows to generate better insights, personalized betting markets, different model outcomes and whatnot. And so it'll be interesting to see as the prediction markets could maybe blur the lines between sports betting, financial trading. We're gonna see a lot of that here coming up pretty soon. And lastly, a story where near and dear to my San Diego roots, the multiple buyers have emerged for the Padres, including people like Drew Brees, Warriors owner Joe Jacob. So obviously, whenever there's an MLB franchise becomes available, everyone wants to party, everyone wants to get involved. So because these MLB teams are scarce, media rights still create this massive, predictable revenue streams. But one thing to note about the Padres is it's more of a sports ownership groups are getting more complex. Till we see kind of, like I said, a number of people kind of get involved instead of just one owner. It's kind of like these celebrity owners, investors, private equity participation, global partners, global reach. So it'll be interesting to see where the Padres go. And, if they need another investor myself, maybe I'll get into the Padres deal room. That's the last story we're covering this week for the Constant Sports Friday 5. If you want a deeper look into sports business insights, networking opportunities, career resources, check out the Constant Sports community at ConstantSportsCo.com. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next week.